Good morning. It's been a very wet night here in Wales, and it's that time of year when if it rains, everything springs to life, and I can see outside the window that everything is looking very lush and very green, which is rather lovely. Welcome, hello. This is the 24th episode of the Go Gently podcast, and also the 1460th episode of the One Thing Today podcast. The eagle-eared among you may notice that 1460 is a little bit on from where I was with One Thing Today when I recorded the last Go Gently podcast. I think we were up to about 1446 then. That's because over on Patreon I've been experimenting with recording regular episodes of One Thing Today again, just to see how it would fit in with my energy. And I've decided that I am going to return to recording regular episodes of One Thing Today, at least until I hit 1500, and after that I shall make a decision whether to carry on or not. I'd like to carry on, but we will just see how things go, taking things in smallish steps, just so that I don't overpromise or overplan. But if you are interested in hearing, I think there's 14 episodes over on Patreon. Do pop over there. They're available to all levels of patrons, and from today onwards, 1460 onwards, they're going to be available here on the Go Gently website as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll pop a link below so you can find those. So if you're a fan, or if you enjoy listening, or hopefully both, to the One Thing Today podcast, then do pop over and even subscribe to the emails. They'll be going out on a regular basis once again, which I'm quite excited about. I've really been enjoying recording the audio podcasts. They're a slightly simpler format than I had when I stopped recording them regularly. So do have a listen and see what you think. But back to today. Would you like to join me for 20 minutes of creative work here in my studio? Before that, would you like to join me for a walk? A little while ago, I recorded a walk to a new spot, a newly discovered spot, not very far from my house, which I've christened Bluebell Hill. Perhaps when it's not Bluebell time, I should call it Blueberry Hill, but I've called it Bluebell Hill because it's absolutely stunning, completely covered in bluebells. And I don't know how I've missed it before. I wonder if it's just not been as covered in bluebells as it is before. It is a little bit above a path that I walk on. So perhaps if I wasn't looking, I wouldn't have seen it. But I find it hard to believe that all the years I've lived here, I've not seen it. But this year, it really sprung out at me. Just this beautiful purple haze of bluebells at the top of this hill. So I went on a tiny adventure and took you on a walk to visit Bluebell Hill. Oh dear, at this point I might restart recording the podcast, but I'm not going to. We'll just have to accept that I'm not very with it this morning. I took you for a walk to visit Bluebell Hill, and it would be lovely if you would like to come and join me on that walk. And after that, come back here and we can have a 20-minute work session. I'm going to be working on my stripy socks again. Enjoy the walk. I shall see you back here afterwards. Last week I discovered a new spot that was completely covered with bluebells. It was a well, I suppose I called it a hill, but I suppose it was a mound on the side of the hill that I've not really noticed before, and I only noticed it this year because it was very, very purple because of the bluebells that were on it. I don't know whether it's just a particularly good year for bluebells this year, or whether there are other factors, perhaps the fact that there don't seem to be sheep in the field this time of year that have let the bluebells grow. And I went there to record a vlog post and an episode of One Thing Today a few days ago. And while I was sitting on the side of the hill, I noticed that there was a path that led directly across to the apple tree that I've been visiting. And I thought it would be a lovely thing to do, to take a walk early in the morning across the brow of the hill to the Bluebells and sit with a cup of tea, which is what I'm going to do this morning. So we're walking just along the side of, well, actually walking along the side of my neighbour's land right now, who just walked along my garden past my studio, and we're heading up in a moment for probably the only really bit of up. We'll see. I think the path pretty much goes straight across the neighbouring field from the apple tree to the Bluebell Hill, and I'm rather looking forward to finding out. There's one spot that I'm a bit unsure about. There's a fence that looked as if it had a very, very wide gap under it, probably sheep-size gap, which I think I'll be able to walk under. That's the only point that I think might scupper my plans, but if it does, it doesn't matter. So I might be quiet as I walk up the hill to the apple tree. I don't think Ounce is following me. Perhaps he'll appear a bit later, sometimes he does. Oh, I shall just pause here for a second though, because we're just passing the horizontal oak trees. That's the one I usually sit on. But why I'm stopping is because there are lots of bluebells here, which is rather lovely. It's a bit strange. The spot in the woods by the river where I've taken you for walks before, there's usually a really spectacular path of bluebells. This year they're over already, I found out a day or two ago. And I did wonder if that meant the bluebells were just ending early this year, but here at home there are lots of spots of quite dense bluebells, including the place we're going to. Maybe that's a little sign that I should just stick close to home and enjoy exploring close to home. I don't need to go far to find interesting things to explore. Now, we're just approaching the apple tree. If you've listened to a couple of the more recent episodes of One Thing Today, which I'm posting over on Patreon, you'll know that this apple tree is being quite special for me at the moment. I can see it from my bed, and it's not the case today, but it's all, in fact, the blossom has gone pretty much, but when it was completely covered in blossom, it was shining pink. Against the sky. I first noticed it on a very grey day, and I noticed that I thought I was imagining it at first, that the tree was shining pink, but I realised it was the blossom, and I came for a walk up here, and since then I've been watching the tree from bed against the different skies and enjoying that. It felt like a bit of a beacon for me. In fact, from bed it looked rather like a burning beacon, or a very gently glowing beacon or torch, and it just feels very pregnant with promise, and I think I'm going to visit this tree a lot over the next few months, watch the fruit hopefully grow. Last year there were no crab apples at all, and I wonder if that was because of the very hot summer we had last year. I'm hoping this year is going to be different. Certainly there's been more blossom than I've ever seen on this tree and the other apple trees nearby as well. So we will just make it an interesting place, not far from home, to come and visit. But today it's just a way station on the way to the hill, the little hill that we're walking to across this field. Now, I don't think you can see the purple haze. I can actually see the purple of the bluebells from here, but I don't think it's showing up on the camera. But if we keep walking, we'll get there. Normally, when I walk in this direction, I walk down the hill there, down that way, towards the oak trees, and then along that fence line, which runs parallel to the stream, and just beyond the edge of the hill there, the path continues. And more recently, I've been going for longer walks up the hill to the very top, where there are some lakes. I haven't visited those for a number of years, and it's been rather nice that I felt able to do that this spring. Now, this is new. I've not walked this way before, up here. Let's just stop and look at the view. I do walk directly that way. There's a gate, and I walk round and up to the oak trees at the top of the hill there. But walking across this way is new. Now, I don't know if you can see, there's a sheep path just in the grass there, and that's the one I'm going to follow, because I've got a suspicion that will take me to the hole in the hedge, or the hole in the fence, which hopefully I'm going to be able to go through. If not, I'll have to go down the hill and up the other side, but hopefully I won't need to do that. Oh, I wish I could show you. I wish you could see the purple on around the bottom of the little hill. Strange, I see it very clearly. It's not showing up at all on the camera, but we'll see it when we get there at the other end. If there's any sign of ounce, but there isn't. I thought he probably wouldn't want to come here because it's a little bit off his known territory. He does walk along at the bottom of the hill with me, but usually stops before we go into the next field and waits for me. In fact, I wonder if you can start to see the purple now around the hill. I was sitting on there a few days ago and I saw a big hole in the fence. In fact, I wonder what's ahead of me. Let's just keep going and see, trusting that there will be a way through. Another sheep path there. They both seem to converge here ahead of me. Gosh, can you see the bluebells now? It's quite a spectacular sight. Ooh, now. It's not as big a hole as I remember. I don't know, it's not too bad. There's the hole. I think I'm going to pause filming while I scramble under there. I shall see you, hopefully, on the other side. That wasn't too bad, actually. I didn't have to crawl I just had to crouch. There's the path that we've just taken. And here are the bluebells. Let's take up this little path up the side here, I think. It is lovely, even after all these years, finding new spots to explore, not terribly far from home. There, look. In fact, this path goes all the way around. This is all completely new to me. Hazel tree. Oh my goodness. Just look at this. There, I found a flat spot to sit on at the side of the hill, just underneath the hazel tree that I've just found. And I'm going to sit here with a cup of tea for a little while before I head home. It would be lovely if you stay tuned and you'd like to join me for 20 minutes of creative work on whatever you're working on at the moment. I shall see you back in my studio in a moment. Take care, bye-bye. There, I hope you enjoyed that walk. Well, while we've been walking, I've been drinking tea here and hopefully coming to a little bit. I'm obviously not very with it this morning, but hopefully with it enough to do some crocheting. It would be lovely to have your company. I've been very slow with my crocheting the last month or so. In fact, August. See, I'm still not very with it. May has been quite a slow month for me. Not unpleasantly slow, not unpleasantly so, but slow nonetheless. And I just let that be the case, really. Let's wind up the timer. There we go, 20 minutes on the clock. Good luck with whatever you're working on. Yes, this month has been a slow one for me. It's been a slightly odd month in that I've actually been quite active. I've been walking quite a lot. In the One Thing Today podcast that I've been recording, quite a few of them have been recorded while I've been out on walks. Not all of them, but a fair number of them. And then on days when I haven't been doing things, I've been resting a lot as well, and just accepting that sort of back and to a bit between doing and not doing. But on rest days, I've been doing very little. I've been doing a little bit of reading. I've been doing some cooking, but I've not been doing very much crocheting. A couple of months ago, I started keeping track in my journal of a few habits that I wanted to encourage myself to keep. A little bit of reading every day and a little bit of crocheting every day. And the days that I did it, I just sort of a little mark in my journal that I'd done, a little cross in my journal. And May, there's been hardly any crocheting. I mean, there's been a little bit here and there, but really hardly any at all. So I'm hoping June is going to be more of a crochet month. We will see. We will see. But I enjoyed May. I've enjoyed May very much. I've not really had much pressure on myself. The third third habit that I've been trying to build is spending 10 minutes out here in the evenings working on my workshop for Gladfest at Gladstone's Library, which is in September. If you don't know, every year Gladstone's Library, which is one of my absolute favourite places in the world, have a literary festival. And not for the last couple of years, but for a while I've been teaching workshops there. And I was very pleased to be asked again this year if I'd like to teach another workshop. It's a bigger workshop this year. They're called the masterclasses. They're 4 hours long, which is quite an undertaking for me, both in terms of planning it, but in terms of giving it too. But I'm looking forward to it. So I've been trying to work on the workshop very gently, a little bit at a time, just waiting for the next step, whatever the next step might be, to reveal itself to me, and then coming out here in the evening and just working on that. Which I've had mixed success with this month. Certainly towards the end of the month, that tailed off rather a lot. So in June, I'm hoping to reinvigorate that habit. So perhaps there'll be a little more crocheting and a little more workshop work. What I don't want to happen with this workshop is that suddenly, when it's almost here, I'm in a panic and have to sort things out and get it done. One thing I've done, which I'm hoping is going to make that less likely, is set a deadline at the end of July for getting it finished. Of course, that's not a real deadline because it's not happening till August, is it? So I don't know if that's going to work or not. I did wonder about whether I should arrange something in August, something restful, but something that takes me away from the possibility even of working on the workshop, so that so that it has to be done, so that there is that pressure of deadlines. That's the reality, isn't it? I mean, I say that. It feels like the reality with deadlines is that that's the way to get things done. If there's a real deadline, things happen by it. I spent a lot of my life trying to kind of tiptoe around that and find ways that isn't the way I work. Some success, but we'll see. We'll see how we get on this month. I can feel an increased urgency about it this month. Talking about it, of course, makes it feel more urgent. But there we are, we'll just see. But May has been a lovely month, even though it's not had much crocheting, and it's not had, well, it has had some workshop making. I do have a structure for it, and yeah, I've got some of the first part done. The first part is the biggest part. The first part is going to be an introduction, so a little talk really. The workshop is about tiny adventures. What they are, what I think of them being, and how to build a tiny adventure habit into our lives. So the first bit is the biggest bit. So it's a talk about tiny adventures, explaining what I think they are, and the sort of main aspects of them. And then the rest of the workshop is about planning and taking and finding a way to document a tiny adventure. So that bit is less of me and more of people just doing their thing, me leading it, but not me talking all the time. So actually, when the first part of the workshop is finished, then I've done the majority of the work. I'm making a presentation to go with the talk, and that's sort of how I'm structuring the talk. And I am hoping that presentation will become a workbook as well. I've sort of got quite a good routine with making courses and making workbooks for the course. They sort of feed off each other. So I'm hoping I'm not creating too much work for myself. If I can't do the workbook, I won't do the workbook. But I'd like to if I can. And then the whole thing, I hope, will be an online course at some point, so that people who can't come to the workshop, who would like to, can take the online course. And that sort of outcome for it is really the thing that made me decide that I would do it. I was very indecisive whether it was the right thing to do, but the idea that I'll have hopefully a book and a course out of it feels like a good use of my energy for the next few months. Even allowing for the possibility that it might turn into a panic at the end. We hope it doesn't. I shall keep you all posted. Anyway. So not even very much reading for me this month. I had to renew my library books. I did finish. I've been reading The Book of Dust, the new Philip Pullman's newest book in his new trilogy. And the trilogy is called The Book of Dust. And the book, I can't remember what it's called. Something like Bluebell, I think. The name of the boat, anyway, it's the name of the boat of the main character, Malcolm. His little canoe. And actually that was a big book. It's about 500 pages. So actually, I mean, I have read that this month. That's what I've read this month. So actually I have read, I'm lying. I have done some reading. I did enjoy that. It was a lovely adventure book. And the next one is out in October, I think. So I shall look forward to that. But I've had a couple of other books. I've got a nature writing book called Threads. I've had out of the library for a little while. I had to renew it and just not made a start on that, reading that. Even after I finished the Book of Dust book, I didn't start that. But it's been nice not doing very much. I've enjoyed myself. And it's been lovely to go for walks when I feel like I'm able to, and I don't plan them at all. Just a day comes along and I feel like I can do it, I'll go for a walk. And it's rather lovely having the One Thing Today podcast to record on those days as well. Feels like I've got company on my walks, which I'm enjoying. So I hope you will listen to some episodes of One Thing Today if you're new to them. I hope you enjoy them. I've changed the format a little bit. I've sort of gone back to basics now. The original idea for the One Thing Today podcast was that I would pick and talk about the one thing that I was going to do each day, and usually that was a creative thing, something that made me feel like I was moving my creative life on just a little bit each day, and I hopefully encourage listeners to do the same. And over the years, the podcast has changed, and most recently, when I stopped regularly recording them, they were the same sort of format as these video podcasts. If you're watching this as a video podcast, so there would be a little bit of a talk. There would be a 20-minute work session, and then a little bit of a talk at the end. But that made them quite complicated to record and to edit. Whereas, sort of getting back to basics, just recording a podcast about my one thing, and maybe if it's a walk, I'm doing it while I'm talking about it. That is the podcast, and I'm able to be quite immediate about recording them. I ended up with quite a good workflow with them, so I've got a way of quite quickly editing them and adding the intro and outro music to it, and then uploading them. So it's actually quite a quick process, so I don't overcomplicate the content. So getting back to recording them and doing it that way has felt very good. And as I say, there are 14 new ones, and they're all over on Patreon. And from this episode onwards, if you're listening to this as an audio, I shall put them up on the Go Gently website. So it'd be lovely. It'd be lovely to have your company on a regular basis with those if there's something you find useful and enjoyable. So I wonder how your May has been, if you've had a good month. I hope so. And I wonder what you're working on right now as well. I think these socks must taken me the longest, the longest that I've taken to make something. Actually, I'm sure that's not true at all. The blanket I was making when I first started making these podcasts took a lot of months, but this has been a few months since I started them. But that's okay, there's no rush. It's been such a long time since, but the last time I picked these up, I couldn't even remember what colour hook I was using. I had to go back and watch a past video to remind myself what hook I was using. So yeah, very much out of the habit. It's nice to stay in the habit enough to be able to pick something up and just carry on with it without having to think too much. And I've lost that. So we'll see what June brings. I've got Ounce with me at the moment. He's curled up on the chair. Good to have his company. Because actually I've not even been here very much this month, in May. Not spending anywhere near as much time in my studio as I imagined I would. Still feels very nice to come out here since I've sorted things out a bit. But I've been outside a lot. I think I've been sort of alternating between being outside and being in bed. And not much studio in the mix. I almost started talking about something which I want to save for another or the next episode of the One Thing Today podcast. A little bit of news. I will save it actually. I will save it. It's sort of related to my beard, which isn't going. It's not going to disappear. My beard isn't disappearing, but something. I'm doing something with my beard, and because of that, I'm doing something else. So, sorry, I do like to tease a little bit, but I will talk about it in the next episode of One Thing Today. And I probably will record a vlog post about it before that, actually, over on Patreon. Don't hold your breath or anything. It's not huge, but I'm looking forward to it. Oh, I'm going to have to change colour. I was hoping that I would get away without changing colour during the podcast, during the video, but I'm going to have to. Especially when I've not been doing it for a while. It needs to be rather fiddly, so bear with me. I probably can't talk while I'm doing this. Gosh, I really am making quite a mess of this. I am just going to carry on for a second so that I don't leave this in a mess. There, I made heavy work of that, but I have tidied things up a bit and established the colour change, which is a much better place for me to stop rather than a place of confusion. I hope you've had a good 20 minutes. I hope you're not ending in a place of confusion. It's always nice to know what our next step is when we stop whatever we're working on. It's been lovely to have your company. It's been lovely to be back in my studio after a little bit of a break, and lovely to be back crocheting as well. I hope whatever you've done, you feel like you've moved your creative life on just a little. And if you do enjoy these video podcasts, please do subscribe either on the button below if you're watching this on my website, or on YouTube. Or actually, I think there's a little in the corner here, there's a little drawing that you can click on, a little self-portrait you can click on. If you click on that, you can subscribe as well. If you are interested in listening to the One Thing Today podcast, The first 14 of the new run of them is over on Patreon at the moment for all levels of patronage. And if you are on Patreon already, thank you so much for being there. Your support means a huge amount and is very much appreciated. From this episode on, the podcast will also be up on the Go Gently website as well. So lots of opportunities to listen if you would like to. Take care. I shall look forward very much to seeing you next time and speaking to you in the One Thing Today podcast very soon. Take care.